I mean, Wemby is the best thing that happened to the NBA since LeBron James in 2003, real talk. And he checked all the boxes. He's the ultimate competitor on both ends of the floor, and with a beautiful performance throughout the whole course of this conference finals and the playoff to get his team to the NBA finals.
For the last 3 years, the rest of the NBA has been telling itself the same comforting lie about Victor Wembanyama. Asterisk, not yet, asterisk, sure. He's a generational talent. Sure, he'll eventually become unstoppable. But San Antonio wasn't ready. The supporting cast was too young. There was still time before the Spurs became a real championship threat. That illusion is officially gone, because the moment everyone feared has arrived sooner than anyone expected. The Spurs march into Oklahoma City, silence the defending champions on their own floor, and won a Game 7 that announced a new power in the NBA. The future didn't wait its turn. It arrived ahead of schedule. And that's the part that should scare the rest of the league. As incredible as Victor Wembanyama is, he may not be the Spurs' biggest advantage anymore. The real nightmare is everything around him. Every player understands his role. Every rotation fits perfectly. Every piece complements the next. They've built a team that doesn't depend on one superstar. It thrives because everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to do. And when you combine that kind of chemistry with the most dominant young player basketball has ever seen, you don't just have a contender. You have the beginning of something the rest of the NBA may not be ready to stop.
Took it away. They want the double dribble, not called. Hartenstein blocked by Cornet. Oh, Cornet goes up and stops.
So that's what this video is really about. This isn't another Victor Wembanyama highlight reel. You've already seen dozens of those. Instead, we're breaking down the Spurs from top to bottom, because the biggest reason they become the NBA's newest powerhouse isn't just a generational superstar wearing number 1. It's everything built around him. The guards who know exactly when to feed him and when to attack. The shooters who make double-teaming Wembanyama a dangerous gamble. The role players who quietly dominate the 6 or 7 minutes that rarely make the highlights but often decide playoff games. Everyone is focused on Wemby, but almost nobody is paying attention to the machine San Antonio has quietly assembled. Every piece fits. Every player complements the next. Every role has a purpose. And that's exactly what they proved by eliminating the defending champions in a 7-game battle. They didn't win because Wembanyama scored 40 every night. They won because the system kept producing answers, no matter what Oklahoma City tried. And before anyone says the Thunder were injured or the Spurs simply caught fire at the perfect time, remember this. San Antonio beat Oklahoma City 8 times in 12 meetings this season, including both the regular season and the playoffs. That isn't luck. That's a matchup one of the NBA's best teams never solved. In the deciding Game 7, Wembanyama scored just 22 points, yet the Spurs still control the game from start to finish. That probably sounds surprising now, but by the end of this video, it'll make complete sense. So let's start where every conversation about San Antonio begins, with Victor Wembanyama. Everything this team does revolves around him, almost like he's the center of his own basketball universe. Most people stop at the box score, and the numbers alone are extraordinary. At just 22 years old, Wembanyama averaged 25 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks during the regular season. In the playoffs, he continued producing at an elite level with 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 3.5 blocks per game while leading the entire postseason in both total rebounds and total blocks. For most centers, those numbers would already define a legendary playoff run. But with Wembanyama, the statistics only tell a fraction of the story. His greatest impact isn't measured by the points he scores or the shots he blocks. It's measured by everything opponents stop doing the moment he steps onto the floor.
On 4. Wemby's going to pull a deep 3. Oh my goodness.
But here's the thing. There isn't a single statistic that truly captures what Victor Wembanyama does to a basketball game. You can spend all day staring at the box score, and you'll still miss the biggest part of his impact. You have to watch him to understand it. A comment I read recently described it perfectly. Asterisk, gravitational repulsion. Asterisk, and honestly, that's exactly what it looks like. Defensively, offenses spend entire possessions trying to stay as far away from him as possible. They swing the ball around the perimeter, abandon drives, and settle for tougher jumpers just to avoid challenging him at the rim. Without even recording a block, Wembanyama bends entire offensive game plans away from paint. Then, the moment the Spurs get the ball, everything reverses. On offense, there's a gravitational force pulling defenders toward him. Double teams arrive instantly, help defenders collapse into the lane. Every set of eyes follows a 7-footer, and that's exactly what creates opportunity for everyone else. Suddenly, the corner shooter is wide open. The cutter slips behind the defense. The point guard attacks an empty lane. Wembanyama's greatest offensive weapon isn't always a basket he scores. It's the shots he creates for everyone else. That's what makes San Antonio so difficult to defend. His presence unlocks the entire roster. The same thing happens on defense. When you know the best rim protector in basketball is waiting behind you, every perimeter defender becomes more aggressive. Guards pressure ball without fear. Wings jump passing lanes. Players can gamble for steals because even if they're beaten, Wembanyama is there to erase a mistake. He doesn't just protect the rim. He gives his teammates permission to defend differently. That's the hidden value superstars like him provide. History shows just how rare this kind of impact really is. Through his first 16 playoff games, Wembanyama had already accumulated remarkable totals in points, rebounds, and blocked shots, placing him alongside legendary defensive big men like David Robinson and Hakeem Olajuwon in early postseason production. That extraordinary company for a player still only 22 years old. But while Wembanyama is unquestionably the foundation, championships aren't won by one player alone. They are won by the pieces built around him, and that's where San Antonio becomes truly frightening. Before opponents can even worry about stopping Wembanyama, they have to answer another question. Who handles the Spurs' backcourt? And San Antonio has multiple answers. It starts with Stephen Castle, who has quickly become the engine of this team. His scoring, playmaking, and defensive versatility give the Spurs exactly what every contender needs, a guard who impacts both ends of the floor. While orchestrating the offense, he's also willing to take the toughest defensive assignment every single night, making life difficult for elite scorers while still creating opportunities for his teammates. Then there's De'Aaron Fox, the player who keeps everything under control whenever the offense begins to stall. Every team built around a dominant big man eventually runs into possessions where spacing disappears and the shot clock starts working against them. That's when Fox takes over. His speed, downhill pressure, and ability to create offense out of nothing prevent the Spurs from becoming predictable. He collapses defenses, finishes at the rim, or finds open shooters, giving San Antonio another offensive dimension that few teams can match. His value becomes even more obvious when he's unavailable. Without him, the burden of creating offense falls almost entirely on the younger guards. With him back in the lineup, everything settles down. The ball moves more freely, turnovers decrease, and every player slides back into the role they are best suited to play. That's exactly what an elite secondary creator provides. And then there's Dylan Harper, who already looks far beyond his years. In his playoff debut against the defending champions, he stuffed the stat sheet with an all-around performance that showcases scoring, rebounding, playmaking, and defensive instincts. It wasn't just an impressive rookie performance. It was a type of complete playoff game that almost never happens from a first-year player. That's what makes the Spurs roster so dangerous. Wembanyama may be the centerpiece, but the guards around him ensure opponents never get the chance to focus on just one player. Every weakness has an answer. Every defensive adjustment creates another opportunity. And that's exactly how championship teams are built. And the only other rookie to put together a playoff stat line like that? Magic Johnson. That's the kind of company Dylan Harper is entering, and that's why he's such a terrifying piece of this roster. He's an explosive downhill creator, an aggressive defender who forces turnovers, and somehow is only the third guard in San Antonio's rotation. That's when you realize the math is completely broken. Opponents can't simply load up on Victor Wembanyama because the second they send extra defenders his way, Stephen Castle, De'Aaron Fox, and Dylan Harper are ready to make them pay. For years, the blueprint against the Spurs seemed obvious. Stop Wembanyama and live with the rest. The problem is, the rest has become just as dangerous. But here's the cruelest part. Even if you somehow contain Wembanyama and slow down the guards, San Antonio still has another layer waiting for you. The one that usually decides playoff games. Every defense eventually has to make a choice. You can't guard all 5 players, so someone gets left open. Against the Spurs, that's where games start slipping away. There simply isn't a safe player to ignore. Julian Champagnie has become a deadly floor spacer, punishing defenses whenever they lose track of him. Devin Vassell quietly does everything winning teams need, stretching the floor with reliable shooting while guarding the opposing team's best wings. His value doesn't always show up in the headlines, but it shows up on the scoreboard. Then there's Keldon Johnson, the emotional heartbeat of the second unit. Every contender needs someone willing to embrace the physical battles that define playoff basketball, and Johnson thrives in those moments. He attacks the rim, crashes the glass, and injects energy whenever the game starts getting ugly. Even Luke Cornett perfectly represents what makes this roster special. He doesn't need 30 minutes to impact a game. Sometimes all it takes is one defensive stop, one rebound, or one perfectly timed rotation to swing momentum. That's exactly what championship depth looks like. Harrison Barnes brings a calming veteran presence every young contender needs, providing leadership, experience, and timely shooting whenever his number is called. And the younger role players continue proving they belong, giving San Antonio even more size, length, and defensive versatility to throw at elite opponents. That's why this roster feels so complete. There isn't an obverse weak link to attack. Every player has a clearly defined role, and every role strengthens a player next to him. Wembanyama bends the defense. Castle, Fox, and Harper break it apart. The ball swings to the perimeter, and suddenly Champagnie, Vassell, or another shooter is standing wide open. It's a chain reaction where every piece creates opportunities for the next. That's real depth, not simply having a long bench, but having players whose skills amplify each other every possession. And that's exactly why the rest of the NBA should be paying attention. Teams were never truly afraid of one superstar having a huge scoring night. They were afraid of this, a roster with no obvious weakness, no safe defensive adjustment, and no easy answer. Wembanyama is a foundation that makes everything possible, but the talent surrounding him is what transformed San Antonio into a legitimate championship threat. The league spent years convincing itself there was still time before the Spurs arrived. Time before Wembanyama had enough help. Time before San Antonio figured everything out. That time is gone. Whether they win the championship this season or not, the message has already been delivered. The Spurs didn't arrive gradually. They arrived fully assembled, years ahead of schedule. Every player understands his role. Every rotation has a purpose. Every possession reflects a culture built around discipline, unselfishness, and trust. That's what makes this team so dangerous. The future of the NBA isn't coming anymore. It's already here, and it's wearing silver and black. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think the Spurs are about to start the league's next dynasty, or is there still one team capable of stopping them? Let me know your prediction in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget